Peace and power, family. Welcome to my channel, Life is Short, where we discuss issues of all kinds, no matter if they're comical, no matter if they're serious, disturbing, whatever the case may be. I also like to tackle current issues and try to bring them on home with a little bit of different perspective for us everyday 9 to 5 people so we can apply it to our lives. Because oftentimes what's going on with the quote unquote popular is actually going on with us as well. It's just on a much smaller scale. So with that being said, let's get to today's topic. Today I want to talk about the old school versus the new school. The aunts and aunties versus the nephews and the nieces. Old heads versus new heads. So we basically got a serious issue with these two dynamics of people. The old heads seem to blame all the youngsters for everything negative going on in our community. The youngsters feel like the old heads are always fronting on them and they can't be talked to. They also feel like the old heads demand respect, however, they don't show no respect. Both sides got a point now. Now myself, I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm also not as old as the group that I'm getting ready to talk about. Now it's gonna seem like I'm picking on the old heads. However, I do have to acknowledge the scale tilt a little bit to y'all as far as this issue is concerned. Now, like any type of generation, the previous generation before, they always gonna look at the current generation and nitpick, as if they have done nothing in their lives. That's just the way it go. And that's really what I want to bring out when I'm talking to the old heads, because you, my friends, were once in this position. Right now, you're kind of acting a little snooty. You think your shit don't stink. But we're going to show without question that your shit definitely stank, and it's still stinking today. Now, one thing about these youngsters, we live in a generation of information. A lot of these youngsters have gone back and done their research, and they found out what y'all was doing. So basically what we have now is a continuation. Whenever it comes to pimp culture, we're gonna just throw some examples out there. Pimp culture, whenever we talking about drugs, whenever we talking about prisons, whenever we talking about thoughts, side pieces, cheating, killing even, this ain't nothing new what these youngsters got going. So right now, I just want you to take a look at the screen, because some of you old heads seem to have forgotten. You was into some real foul shit. Now you can say it ain't as bad as what's going on now, but in my opinion, the only thing that's different is y'all didn't have social media. Can you imagine social media during the time Superfly came out? Let's smoke one of that one. Can you imagine the time when the sisters were showing belly and legs and breasts? I know y'all remember Pam Grier, some of these beautiful sisters. I know y'all remember them being naked. Imagine social media at that point in time and how the other generation really would have been going in on you. They already went in on you because it was changing. And I'm mainly kind of shooting at that 70s group. If you was a teenager or in your 20s, even your 30s and the 70s, y'all had a pretty wild decade. If you was in the 80s as a teenager or, again, 20s or 30s, y'all had a hell of a decade too. So let's not look at these youngsters like they anything different. Now, I grew up in the 90s. I remember the people out the 70s and 80s was saying the same thing about us. That's when you had the menace to societies and all that coming out. They were saying the same thing about us. All y'all of this and y'all of that. Mind you, all them rappers and whatnot, they were raised on y'all in the 70s. And y'all was doing some foul shit, man. Okay? Y'all made songs about drugs. You celebrated pimp culture. You made songs about cheating, home wrecking. You did all of the same stuff that these youngsters are doing. Patti LaBelle made a song called Lady Marmalade. Marmalade. She made this song. Now, she claimed she ain't know what the record was about. She sure sang the hell out that song. For her not to know what the record was about, she sang the hell out that song. Okay, this was basically about a fantasy that a man was having about a prostitute, from my understanding. If it was different, please let me know. I'm just loosely building on this topic. And I like to do this at different times just to kind of open up the discussion so we can, dialogue a little bit in the comments. Well, once I get there, hell, I only got 3 followers. I'm basically talking to myself. But y'all will get there one day. People are backtracking and they'll chime in on it. You had a culture that was so different from what they did in the 50s and the 60s that a lot of them people looked at y'all funny. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about some of the music. Curtis Mayfield, one of the best to ever do it. Superfly, all right? That was the lead track to the popular movie Superfly, of which was quite power-packed with a bunch of stuff. From pimping, dope dealing, killing, the whole nine. Y'all had these kind of movies in your day and age. Curtis Mayfield also made a song called Pusher Man, which was basically the dope man, okay? You had Nicky Barnes in your era. You had Frank Lucas in your era. You had a great heroin situation going on. Now, I'm not excusing the government either, okay? We know the government came through and put the smack down for a lot of this stuff that happened, and we're gonna talk about that in another video. I call myself a historian. I like to watch a lot of old clips on YouTube dealing with some of our famous people. And one I happened to come across was Muhammad Ali. Now, Muhammad Ali was making this particular spiel in the 60s, okay? He said that his mother encouraged him to stay in boxing because she believed that it helped him to stay out of gangs. Now, this may have even gone back to the 50s because he was born in the 40s. So yeah, he started boxing at 12, then he went into so that was the 50s. Now just think about this. His mama was talking about gangs in the 50s. These are his people now. We ain't talking about the Italian gangs. We talking about his people. This was in Louisville, Kentucky. So you can already imagine what was going on in the bigger cities, New York, Chicago, Houston, LA, all these places. So if he was talking about this in the 50s, then how can you act like what's going on with the youngsters is so new, okay? Muhammad Ali also made a statement, I want to say this was in the 70s, how he refused to be in Hollywood because all our people was playing was pimps, hoes, drug dealers, killers, and all of this, right? Now this is a comment that he made during the 70s. So again, I ask, how can you get mad at youngsters? Now, when I say how can you get mad, I only mean from a position of you fronting on them as if you didn't have these things going on. Collectively, from a self-righteous standpoint, of course, all of these things are an issue no matter when they took place. All I'm saying is you did have this stuff in existence, okay? Betty Wright, I'm a DJ, I play her music in every one of my sets. She made a song called Clean Up Woman. Now, would y'all care to tell me what that was about? She also had a song, I think it was Woman to Woman. Was she hollering at the other woman basically about a man? I mean, come on now. What was that about? You understand what I'm saying? Y'all had multiple songs dealing with cheating. I want to say Bobby Womack played I can't even play his record no more. Bobby Womack did Sam Cooke wrong. Took the man's wife, came to his funeral in one of his suits with his woman. What was the song he made? I wish you didn't trust me so much. Now this was shit y'all had going on back in the 70s. So can you really get mad at them talking about side pieces and cheating in today's time? As if you didn't do none of this in your day and age? Let's get on down to the 80s. Shirley Murdoch made a song, she sung the hell out this song too, called Husband. Basically, she dealing with another woman husband. You understand what I'm saying? All this stuff was around, but y'all act like these youngsters created this stuff. So when we talking about thoughts and freaks and all of this, y'all been had them. Y'all been had them. When you talking about dogs and men that couldn't stay faithful or didn't want to stay faithful, it was already going down in your day. So what's so different about it? How can you act alarmed from the standpoint to where you blaming youngsters when it's the same shit? Why hadn't it improved? It's only gotten worse. Where's the disconnect? Did it come from them not being taught better? Did it come from y'all ignoring them? Did it come from y'all not wanting to have anything to do with the youngsters? Because to me, if you want something to get better, you got to coach those who are coming after you to say, hey, this is not the decision that you want to make. This is not the pattern you want to follow, so on and so forth. Because if you're doing it like that, then I feel you're going to see some type of improvement. Okay? Y'all had a lot of prison movies. I remember the one I seen on YouTube called Penitentiary. You understand what I'm saying? So you put the prison culture out there like it was something cool. I'm not saying you did it directly. However, indirectly, these are some of the movies you made. So when you see the youngsters doing stuff like this, I mean, you got to ask yourself, well, where did they learn it? They had to have learned it from somewhere, right? When you talk about gun violence, some of your famous heroes use guns in their movies. Who's the big dude name? Fred. Jim Brown used guns in his movie. You know, some of the people that y'all like that didn't look like us, John Wayne, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rambo. These were entertainers that used guns, but y'all get on the rappers as if they're wrong for talking about guns. I'm not saying they're not wrong, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm talking about from the standpoint of you thinking you perfect. My point is this stuff has been going on. So in order to get to a solution, you got to acknowledge that it ain't nothing new. The good book itself been talking about evil, been talking about foul things. So again, this is nothing new under the sun. It simply changed clothes, right? And the clothes that they got on right now is simply called social media, of which y'all didn't have. But you got plenty of documents on it. You got plenty of documentaries on it. And you got movies and songs to basically that recorded those particular times. So how can we get mad? It ain't just us, by the way. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that. But it ain't just us, but we just talking to us. So hopefully we can say, all right, man, we got stuff that we need to work out. Y'all got some stuff y'all need to work out. Let's come together, okay? A lot of old heads approach youngsters like you automatically owe me respect simply because I'm an elder. I get it. And that's true in the grand scheme of things. However, they're not dumb. If you go at them talking down at them, talking to them like they ain't got no sense, talking to them like you're blaming everything on them, that's not going to be a good situation. Nobody wants to be handled like that. Even if you are 60 or 70 years old, somebody older than you can't come at you like that. So you definitely can't come at them like that. It's got to be mutual respect. Just because you are an elder don't mean that you can just manhandle somebody simply because they're younger than you. That's not how that works, and that's not godly. All right. So let's talk about some of the other issues as it pertains to like gender identification, homosexuality. This shit ain't nothing new, man. Y'all quick to say y'all didn't have that shit back in your day. You's a lie. Just because Little Richard was one of the only ones singing, don't mean that he was the only one that partook in it. Again, y'all didn't have social media. And if you did, you would have saw a lot more of it. It was this movie I saw on YouTube called The Together Brothers. This was where the first black man who was a transmission was documented being on screen. He was the first one. Go look it up. It's a movie called The Together Brothers, made in the early 70s. So where did that come from? Where did that come from? You had an old blues singer, female, first black lesbian, pretty much on wax. Where did that come from? Although that stuff has been going down, it's going back to AD and BC and all them time, but I'm just saying, y'all had the same thing. She wasn't the only one. Y'all had this period called the androgynous period, where you basically had men who would, kind of get their eyebrows done and, they kind of look like women. Mickey Free and Prince and all these people. You didn't complain about it then, but now you want to say, this is what you shoot at the youngsters. Y'all have effeminate natures, okay? And trust me, I get what you're saying. But this stuff took place in your day and age too. These youngsters are not the only ones that dealt with being raised, like for instance, a male that dealt with being raised by a female. Fathers were stepping out in the 70s and definitely the 80s. They were stepping out all the same, definitely in the 90s. Okay? So this stuff has been going down. Y'all were just as crazy about the American dollar, just like these youngsters are. In fact, that has been a world play within this country since it started. People have done any and everything for the American dollar. That is not a new practice, okay? What should be imparted is wisdom to explain, I probably wouldn't do any and everything to get that American dollar because everything don't come back to you, 100. It's gonna basically come with some traps. And it should be explained like that from a wisdom standpoint and not a judgmental standpoint. Because at one point in time, you had people running numbers back in the day. You had people pickpocketing back in the day. You had people robbing back in the day. None of this stuff is new. Just because they didn't use the modern guns or the modern techniques don't mean that it wasn't happening. It was most certainly happening. Y'all were definitely shooting back in the day. You can't really tell me anything unless you presenting stats to say, oh, it was so much better then as it is now. Believe it or not, you do have youngsters that are willing to square up and have a fair fight. What they want to ensure is that the fight is indeed going to be fair, that they not going to get jumped, that this party not going to pull out a gun. And then the other element that y'all didn't have to worry about is that you're not going to put me on YouTube or some other platform and, try to document this shit to build your status up. So it's just more elements added into it. But y'all had people that was quick to pull pistols. I know right here in Houston, Bloody Nickel, that's the infamous Fifth Ward. That didn't come from these youngsters. That's been here way before they got here. The Bloody Nickel, Third Ward, the nightmares and horrors about, say if you went into the CUNY homes, you might not come out or you couldn't go in there unless you knew somebody. What was that about? That was about either getting your ass whooped or getting your ass murdered. This was early 70s, y'all. This was definitely in the 80s, y'all. So again, these youngsters are simply emulating what y'all did. They know how to go back and watch get that old footage. They know how to pull up these old stories. Again, we got access to all information now. So can you really look at them and act like you just so much better? The pictures are steady rolling. And I'm gonna let them roll throughout the whole presentation. Some of y'all been stepping out on your wives and your husband. Some of y'all been partaking in side pieces. Millie Jackson, I seen her grab a man meat on the Apollo on live TV. This is supposed to be a family show. This is well documented. And Millie was a big time freak. So where y'all think they learned this stuff from? All the young brothers talking about being, acting like they pimps and all that. Where you think it came from? So this is a reality check basically, man. You can't look down on the youngsters. The only solution we gonna get is if you decide to come off your high horse and talk to some people sometime. Speak to them. Now again, this is mainly from the perspective of older heads fronting on youngsters as if they don't do no dirt. And I feel if we're older and wiser, we should extend the hand of cooperation and it's gonna hold more weight because they looking at it like, okay, they care about us enough to even talk to us. A lot of them feel like y'all don't care about them. A lot of them don't feel the love from older people. They see how you look at them. A lot of them are figuring out life just like the older heads had to figure out life. It goes around and it happens with every generation. But what good are we gonna be to each other if we turn in our backs on our younger generation? It just don't work. Now to the youngsters, y'all got some messed up shit out there. This is not a video that's excusing anything. All I'm saying is to my older heads, you gotta walk in a little bit more love. You feel me? And I'm out.